Happy Thursday. It is Therapy Thursday. It's been a little while since I did this with you, but I am back. It's time for Transforming Trauma with Dr. Triphi. So, you want to know what I was doing while I was gone? Couple things. I was graduating my baby girl from her bachelor's degree, and she chose to major in Japanese. Yeah, konnichiwa. We graduated her. And right after we graduated her, I got sick with respiratory something. But I'm all well again, and I am back. I am back. I am back. I am back. How have you been? How have you been? I am ready to, I'm ready again to share with you, as I usually do on Thursday evenings, tips, strategies, ideas to help you think better so you can feel better. And you, me, we, us, we can do better together. Tonight, I thought I would talk about empathy. While I took my little break, you know how we were just scrolling day and night on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, and it just felt like I was in Dominica. I'm from Dominica in the Caribbean, yeah? Not to be confused with the Dominican Republic. We are further south. We speak English or French Creole. They speak Spanish. We have a word for like a huge pool of water. We call it a bassin. A bassin is like, I felt like I was drowning in a pool of voices on social media. And the thought of talking about empathy came to me as a way to check myself and as a way to maybe remind you, the people who listen to me, to pay attention to empathy. Yeah. So we're diving into this topic because I think it's crucial for for society, not just for us as individuals, not just for our families, but for society as a whole, because our society has got much smaller. I could be talking to, and I was talking to people from United Kingdom, people in Saudi Arabia, yeah, people in Canada, people in Japan. So society is smaller because of social media, much smaller. I might end up into a huge discussion with a person I have never met. And well, empathy becomes very important in our interactions with people. So, what is empathy? Why is empathy a sign actually of emotional intelligence? What is emotional intelligence? Do you think you're intelligent when it comes to emotions? Hmm? What are some of the challenges we face as people, as human beings alive on the planet at this time? And what can we do to ensure that even as we express ourselves and our individuality, that we still maintain empathy and that we can actually cultivate it? We can actually cultivate it like plants. Yeah. So let's get started. What is empathy? In your mind and from your experience, what is empathy? What does empathy remind you of? So, technically speaking, empathy is the ability to understand, number one, number one, and to share the feelings of another person. So it's a capacity, it's an ability. It's also a willingness because I think a lot of us have the ability to, but we might not necessarily be willing to. It's also the willingness, huh, to put ourselves in the other person's shoes and perhaps for a few minutes make an attempt to see the world from their perspective. So, perspective. If I show you this, you see the bottle, right? I'm not advertising for Deer Park, but I like Deer Park water. You see Deer Park, but you don't see everything. You don't see proudly sourced in Florida. That's from my perspective. I see proudly sourced in Florida, White Springs, Liberty County, Blue Spring, Madison County, Cypress Spring. You see what I'm talking about? I'm talking about perspective. So it's the capacity, number one, but I also think it's a willingness to put ourselves in the vantage point, in the viewpoint, to see where the other person is seeing it from. And realizing that where I see it from doesn't make it completely correct, because I could also be missing the other part of the whole story. I could be missing the other part of the whole experience. And if I just stop here based on my viewpoint, my vantage point, I could be making uninformed decisions or incomplete decisions. And I could really be telling the person over here that you're lying. You're not telling the truth when really they are. I just cannot see it. So, empathy is more than feeling sympathy for, like I feel sorry for you that you're going through this. Yeah. Empathy is about genuinely, yeah, authentically connecting with the other person. So, yeah, I have my piece of information, but you also have your piece of information. Maybe we can connect and learn more about the whole thing. Who knows? Based on more complete information, we might actually be able to make some better choices. Yeah, long term and together. So, empathy really is a cornerstone of human relationships, and it's essential. It is essential, it is essential, it is essential for fostering compassion, kindness, connection, collaboration. Hmm? Now, I mentioned emotional intelligence earlier. How is that connected to empathy? How is empathy connected to emotional intelligence? Uh, we are, a lot of us, we are mostly familiar with our intellectual quotient, your your intellectual functioning, your smartness, but even more than your smartness, your ability to learn from one situation and transpose that information elsewhere. So if I learn a lesson here, if I'm smart, if I'm intelligent, if my IQ is high, one would expect that I would be able to take this lesson that I learned here and apply it over there. Yeah. Now, what is emotional intelligence? That's a little different than the book smarts. Yeah. And the choice smarts. Emotional intelligence, or EQ versus IQ, is our ability to recognize, yeah, to see it and notice it, to understand. Yeah, that's more work, isn't it? I can identify, I can recognize, but I also now do something more and I understand. And then I do something else. And now I manage my own emotions. I recognize my emotions. I understand my emotions. And I manage my emotions, as well as recognize it and understand how it influences the emotions of other people, as well as seeing that and noticing that in another person. So there are five main components of emotional intelligence. Empathy is one of them. Again, empathy is our ability to understand the emotional makeup of ourselves and other people. It cannot be that we only understand ourselves. We're not finished yet, because if we're in interaction with other people, they must count as well. It's your level of skill in treating other people according to their reactions. Because If they're from a different perspective, their reactions might be completely different from mine based on the same situation or object or person we're looking at or thinking about and talking about. Empathy helps us to build and keep strong relationships. It's in the real world, empathy is great for customer service. It's great for things like cultural sensitivity, where even though we look, say, at politics in completely different frameworks or lenses, completely different, we can appreciate at least that you have a right to your position. You have a right to see it the way you see it. Yeah. And even just with that, we can build a certain level of respect and appreciation for the other person. Some other factors and components of emotional intelligence that I'm not going to talk too much about tonight are self awareness. Yeah, I need to know myself. I need to be able to identify what I'm feeling as I'm responding to a person. Yeah, I need to be able to identify it. What is the name of this feeling running through my body? Am I sad? Am I mad? Am I embarrassed? Am I feeling confused? Am I feeling enraged? Am I feeling helpless? Am I feeling powerless? Am I feeling shocked? These are all very different emotions. And so I have to be able to identify the emotion and then go a little further and understand the feeling. What is this? You know what I mean? What is this about? Like, what is this about? Like, what is this experience maybe reminding me of? Yeah. Is this person interacting with me like somebody who really, really uh, caused me a lot of pain in the past? Are they talking to me in a certain kind of way that it's reminding me of how I interacted with somebody? Yeah, that was very nasty. Yeah. And then now my next step is, well, what do I do with those feelings? Yeah, my self awareness leads me to understand, well, what do I need to do to manage the emotion? Do I need to stop talking right now with this person on social media? Hmm? Do I need to block this person, delete this person? Do I need to take more time to express what I'm really thinking inside? And so I might have to sit and decide, well, I'm going to have a back and forth with a person for 30 minutes. Because y'all, when we're texting, especially, it's very challenging to completely convey everything we're feeling, thinking, and sometimes wanting to say. So on these platforms on social media, you might be going back and forth with a person, and that person is not able to see your face. They're not able to see if you're smiling, if you're mad, if you're fuming, if you're crying. Yeah, they can't read any nonverbal cues. Hmm? They're not close to you. They cannot smell you. That's those things are important, you know. They can't see your teeth. Yeah. They don't know what you look like. So we have to decide how we proceed in managing our emotions. Do we even have enough time to go back and forth? Yeah, so that is self-awareness. Yeah, self-awareness. Then you also have self-regulation. It's another aspect of emotional intelligence. That's the managing part, the ability to control and direct or redirect, yeah, impulses. You're a human being, and all of us have triggers. All of us have our soft spots. Some of us do more work on understanding them and kind of soothing them than others, you know, and that's a task I want to invite you to spend a lot of time working on. Yeah, so you know what sets you off, and therefore you can learn before you even need to. You can learn what to do when that emotion shows up for you. But self-regulation is your ability to think before you do something. Yeah, an emotion shows up, and we have very little control over what emotions show up in our bodies. They just show up. Yeah, we might tell ourselves, I don't want to feel angry. That's a different experience, isn't it? Than the fact that you're experiencing anger. You might tell yourself, why am I feeling angry? But the fact is, you're feeling angry. So the emotion will show up, and your task then is to move towards regulating yourself. Another aspect of emotional intelligence is motivation. Yeah, your passion, energy level for work and things that you're doing, social media, writing, your work, your kids, your relationship. And then social skills is another piece of emotional intelligence. Social skills is really your ability to manage the interactions with other people, right? The back and forth, your ability to build networks, your ability to choose and decide, I am not going to build with person A or person B because I see A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yeah. It's also an ability or a decision, because I think ability and willingness, moving even further into choice. I mean, those are separate things. So we might have an ability, but we also then make a decision to find common ground. Where do we agree? And can we use the space that we agree as a bridge to build our connection or to keep our connection? So in the realm of social media, yeah, where we are very connected but very disconnected, right? Yes or no? We're very connected. It's easy to say hello to you, it's easy to cuss you out as well. It's easy to become disconnected on social media. So for people, say, who have pre-existing relationships, what I mean by that is you grew up together, we went to church together, we're friends, yeah. So what are we going to do if we're disagreeing? What are we going to do if we're disagreeing? Are we going to stop being friends? Or will we practice empathy and allow our friends from high school to have their thoughts and their feelings? Will we practice empathy and appreciate that they have a right to see it from the perspective they're seeing it? And will we make the choice and use our social skills capacity to maintain our connection anyway? Yeah. And allow people, using empathy, allow people to be themselves, to be who they are. And I have to do it, and the other person on the other side has to do it. Well, let me change has to, it is in our best interest, if we're going to maintain connections, to do it. You don't have to do anything, but it's in our best interest to make choices where we place empathy and understanding and appreciation of other people's individual rights to be themselves, because we want to be ourselves too. We want to be ourselves too. So empathy is our saving grace. It's our saving grace in a world that's become very connected and very easy to say whatever to whomever. Yeah. Empathy allows us, if we're willing and if we're choosing to navigate our social relationships, where we keep the connections even though we are disagreeing. And we can do that because when the feelings of pain show up in our body, when somebody disagrees with our thoughts, what do? We identify what it is we're feeling, give it a name. Yeah, I feel sad, I feel irritated, I feel upset. Yeah, identify the feeling, understand it. What is it about? I am feeling irritated because they don't agree with me. Or why am I irritated? Doesn't agree with me. Do I think everybody needs to agree with me? Number one. Number two, I mean, does their not agreeing with me make me feel less than, like as if I'm not smart, or you know what I mean? Or I'm not on the winning team, or am I feeling left behind? Am I feeling less than? Am I feeling, like they're imposing on me? What exactly is that is at the root of the feeling I'm experiencing in my body? And then the third step again is to manage that myself by regulating myself. See, because the other person might not have even meant for me to be feeling what my body is feeling. That other person was only sharing their thoughts and their feelings. They were not intending to hurt me necessarily. Yeah. Now they are mean to hurt you necessarily. And fundamentally, they have a right to be an idiot. They have a right. They have a right to do that. Yeah. But still, in the social connecting, you decide how far you will go then with a person who means to hurt you. Yeah. So empathy is crucial. It's a crucial component in navigating this space and this life. I think social media, I'm using social media a lot because it's really amplified it. We have to do it. Again, we don't have to. It's in our best interest to do it in our relationships, yeah, with our children. Parents, sometimes we have a hard time with that, yeah, being empathetic towards our kids. Sometimes we can think, I'm just going to lay down the law. I don't care about what it is you're feeling or thinking because I'm your mother, because I'm your father. Yeah. Forgetting that the 2-year old is a complete human being. Hmm? And that an emotion might have shown up in their body that are two they don't even really understand. They can't even label it, yeah? Much less to manage it. So empathy in our parenting, I mean, that's got to be a thing. It's got to be an awareness. Like we have to be aware of this stuff. Yeah. Empathy, therefore, if we are choosing to apply it, will help us build stronger relationships, because no matter what relationship you're having with whomever, you're going to come to points of disagreement if you interact with each other long enough. Well, what will you decide when you disagree? Will you decide that I don't love you anymore because we disagree? Or will we practice empathy? And I appreciate that you have a different perspective. You appreciate that I don't understand it because I don't have to understand it. I just don't. Hmm? And maybe we can find something else to focus on that we're both understanding, yeah, and agreeing on. And we can use that again as the bridge to maintain the connection instead of disconnecting. Empathy will put us in position to respond to other people appropriately because we will have processed the stuff within ourselves first. Yeah, as opposed to automatically responding from the initial emotion. Because again, that initial emotion that shows up in my body when I'm disagreeing with a person, yo, if I'm only responding and always responding immediately, again, have I done the work? Have I identified what I'm truly feeling? Have I given that emotion a name? Number one, I feel, boom. Yeah. Do I understand why I'm feeling this feeling? And have I made any attempt to manage the feeling? Three big steps I missed. So I missed an opportunity to grow and to learn myself better if I'm going to be automatically responding. And I'm also putting my connections at risk because I am not willing to do the work of an adult, which is when I feel something inside of me, I identify the emotion, I do at least a little work, I make an attempt to understand why my body is responding in this way, because it might help me, it might teach me something about myself that I can apply to another situation. using my IQ. Yeah, IQ is my ability to use one situation, transpose it to another one so that I don't keep making the same mistakes. Then I'm smart. Yeah, I'm wise. Yeah. And then making attempts to regulate our emotions ourselves. How might you do that? You talk to somebody else, take the steam, yeah, out, vent, talk about it, go take a walk, go exercise, listen to some music, read something, listen to a podcast of somebody teaching you something valuable. Just shift the emotion, yeah, and then you can come back. Then you can come back, because if you at least make an attempt, you're going to come back in a different emotional state, at least less hot than initially if you're just responding right away. Yeah. So the in my mind, biggest value in my mind of empathy is high empathy. High empathy tends to lead to better collaboration. We work better together because I can tolerate myself when I'm around you. I can manage myself when I'm around you, even though you are saying things that set me off. But if we have a bigger goal to accomplish, I can manage being with you. Yeah, I can manage being with you. Yeah. Conflict resolution. When we hit those hard spots, which we will if we are with each other for long enough. Yeah, married couples know that well. People in relationships know that well. Parents and kids know that well. We have so much interaction with each other. Statistically, our chances of having a negative interaction are much higher, yeah, than if we don't deal with each other much. So we need the skills to be able to make our way through when we are in conflict. Conflict in your relationships ought not to be a shock, ought not to be a, oh my God, the relationship is over. No, it should be an expectation. It should be an expectation because we are dealing with each other. And sometimes you will see this side of the bottle, and I'll be seeing over there. Yeah. And sometimes those two never come together. Never come together. Yeah, if we're not willing, especially to do the work of identifying our feelings, yeah, understanding our feelings and managing our feelings before we respond to people. Yeah. So, unfortunately, like I said, we're facing a crisis in empathy today, the way I just described empathy. Like I said, empathy is not just the idea of I'm feeling sorry for you. No, empathy is all that. Empathy is allowing you to say things that make you look like an idiot in my perspective, yeah, from my perspective. And for me to feel that, think that, yeah, dig deeper into myself to figure out why I'm thinking and feeling that based on just your words. You have a right to your words, yeah. Regulate myself, yeah, yeah, and then decide what I'm going to do with you. So I think maybe we became addicted to the parts of social media where the fail videos, like the stuff where somebody slips and fall on ice. They fall on ice. I mean, I am guilty of this. I'm owning this. There was a video I saw on Twitter once, and this guy thought that a frozen pool was a pool of water, and he jumped in, and the poor guy just he didn't hurt himself to the point of, like there was no blood or anything, but he was hurt. And yeah, I was cackling, you know. I think maybe we've become so addicted to these videos because they are funny, but they desensitize us, I think, in a way to other people's pain. Situations like that, we repetitively watch these things, and we make people a spectacle, you know. There's a certain young couple on Facebook that are divorced right now, and if you know the story, her husband left her 3 days after she gave birth to their little baby, live online. Yeah. And there is the back and forth and back and forth. And I personally feel a temptation to maybe the word is jeer, Jeer, you know. So I have to watch myself when I'm losing my empathy for a part of that couple, you know? And I'm sure you can think of examples where that's happening in your life. But I mean, the thing about it is, collectively, long term, is this in our best interest as a collective? Yeah, as a collective, as a group. The world is getting faster paced. Yeah, technology is driving the world. I mean, everything is digital these days, and social media is fabulous for allowing us to be able to connect with each other as much and as quickly as we can. But it might also be promoting, or it might also be a good breeding ground if we're not being aware of superficial interactions. Don't talk about hostility. There are some people who don't know me, and you can bet are not happy with me because I've expressed certain views on politics. You see what I'm saying? So there's a lack of empathy and an unwillingness to allow me, you, them. Yeah? Maybe I've been hard on some other people who have other thoughts, right? It's an empathy issue. Yeah, it's an empathy issue. Yeah. And because it's constantly bombarding us, our brains are getting desensitized to it. That means, like, it used to shock us in the beginning, but we're not shocked anymore. Yeah. It used to shock us in the beginning, but we're not shocked anymore. What a deficit in empathy can lead to, in addition, is misunderstanding, loneliness, loneliness for some people, and fundamentally, fragmentation in the society, fragmentation in family relationships, fragmentation in romantic relationships, parent child relationships, fragmentation, because we will not be willing to move through the disagreements. Yeah. So I think we always have choice. We always have the power, ultimately. So, what can we do? What can we do about it? How can we nurture empathy in our personal lives, in our family lives, in our work lives, mm, on social media? One, the word is active listening. Active listening is truly listening and understanding what another person is saying first, without automatically and immediately jumping to conclusions or responding. So, without right away sharing what my perspective is, trying at least to make an attempt to see where a person might be coming from and why they might be doing what they're doing. Hmm? Because there will be time for me to express my perspective too. I wonder if sometimes we think, well, maybe they won't listen to me, so sometimes we just right away give our responses. Number two, where possible, face to face conversation is where it's at, where you can really be present and focus, where you can pay attention to body language, nonverbal cues. They're rolling their eyes, they're smiling, they're crying. Yeah, you can be present, we can be close. Number three, helping other people. Doing for other people is a fantastic way to cultivate empathy. Volunteering, hmm, helping. What it does is it exposes us to different experiences and different perspectives that we might never even have considered. Yeah, so sometimes if you're too insulated and sheltered and it's just your one group you're listening to, your group is only and always correct. Lack of empathy is quick to breed in that kind of setting. If it's only the people in my group who are right, and I will not use empathy to listen to the perspective of the people outside of my group, yeah, I always think I'm right. That cannot be correct. Number four, start young, start with our kids, and encourage empathy in our children by teaching them about how their actions impact other people. I think we have to practice empathy with our children too. And that's hard, I know. And that's challenging. But I think we have to do that. Yeah, at a certain point, we have to do that. There are many of us parents, even when our kids become adults, we don't want to do that. Well, we got to appreciate their perspective, and we don't have to, but it's in our best interest and the relationship's best interest to appreciate their perspective, try to see their perspective, and try to again find the common ground that can serve as a bridge, a through line for us to maintain the relationship. If not, we will just, you know, the parent or the child is going to do something so ridiculous to you from your perspective. You're going to be like, get the out of here. Okay? So, without empathy, society, IMO, in my opinion, is at risk, is at high risk. And I'm saying society again, but I'm asking you to generalize that to your family, to your church, to your community, to your workplace, yeah, to your relationships. A lack of empathy leads to increased division, separation, conflict, and breakdown in communication. If we stop talking, there is no movement. If you and someone stop talking, there is no opportunity to understand the other person. That's dead. And we have a right to choose that because sometimes that is in our best interest to choose that. Yeah. But still, when it breaks down to that level, there is no chance of resolution because we're not talking through it. Yeah. But if I think I'm right and I think you're horrible and I refuse to see it from your perspective ever, because I don't want to apply empathy to the situation, and that's a high likelihood of that kind of result. Yeah. Lack of empathy erodes the very fabric of our communities, of our groups. It makes it harder to solve the big problems that we share. See, there are some problems that are just my problems, yeah, or just all families' problems. But when we live in community, it's everybody's problem. But if we are not applying empathy to each other, how will we collaborate? And if I think over here, my group is the only one with the answers, how many solutions am I missing that are not in that group? So the whole ends up suffering. Empathy is essential for creating a more compassionate, a more harmonious, and a more fair world. A more fair world. So, my invitation tonight is to myself first and to you to practice awareness and notice when you're being not empathetic or not as empathetic as you wish or as you can really see sometimes might be good for the situation. Practice focusing on what it is you're feeling, understand why you're feeling what you're feeling, manage it yourself, manage it yourself, be open to feedback without necessarily getting defensive about it. Just take it in. Feedback is just somebody else's perspective. It doesn't mean it's a fact. nor does it mean it's the complete story. It's from a person's perspective. So again, they have a right to their thoughts and feelings. So they have a right to that perspective. Now, sometimes that perspective might actually be in your best interest that they're sharing it with you. I mean, if somebody's telling you you've got a booger in your nose, from their perspective, they can see it and you can't. Isn't that good for you? If somebody's telling you, hey, from my perspective, you're drinking too much, yeah, before getting defensive, what if you practice active listening and ask them, well, what makes you think that? Instead of yes or no, no, and that's not true. Yeah. What makes you think that? Ask an open ended question so you can get more information. Because look, maybe you didn't see it like that. And the fact that they shared it with you that, well, you're drinking such and such every night. I know this. Because you were the one doing it, you probably thought you were only doing it on the weekends. And they're telling you, well, actually, yeah, Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's also important to be aware of when other people are upset. And we can see that even if they haven't verbalized it, even if they haven't said something about it, you can see them huffing or puffing. You can see them, some people turning red, or they might start cursing. And what we do is we try to gather more information. So you ask open-ended questions to find out what it is you don't know. And what they say might trigger emotions in you, but again, what do we do for ourselves is we identify the emotion we're feeling, recognize it. Yeah, recognize it. Try to understand it. What is it about for me? Not about them. What is it about for me? And what can I do to manage it in the moment so that I can have a clearer head when I'm choosing my responses? Yeah. Regulating our own emotions, managing our mood. Yeah. Things like saying no. I mean, even if a person has their perspective, we don't have to go along with the other person's perspective. You can appreciate the fact that they have a different perspective without agreeing with them and going along with them. I think sometimes we're afraid that if we allow people to share their thoughts and feelings with us that are different than ours, that somehow we're agreeing with them. No, you have a right to your thoughts and your feelings. I can listen to you respectfully, even though I can say no to you respectfully. Yeah. So, in conclusion, perhaps instead of gossiping about the person who does not agree with you, perhaps instead of that, you might allow them to have their thoughts and feelings that are different than yours. Because in doing that, you also give yourself permission to have your own thoughts and feelings without other people's judgment. Hmm? Empathy is not just nice to have, it's a must have for a society to stay together, to thrive, to survive. And the power always is in us, in the individual. So, who has to foster empathy in themselves? Me. Yeah. The individual in myself and in the children that I raise or the children that I teach if I'm a teacher, so that we put the blocks together to build a more connected, harmonious world. I often speak about a principle in Dominica, my island of my birth, called Natiwell. And Natiwell in Dominica, our elders taught us, is love for your fellow man, and understanding a certain level of empathy for other people, putting yourself in other people's position. Yeah, almost anticipating their needs is what our parents and grandparents taught us. It's natty well. And from that natty well, from that brotherly love, you can also call it universal love, love for myself and love for other people. From that natty well love, they put into action a practice they call the kudme or kulme is another way that the people say it in the French Creole. which is like, I will give my neighbor a little hand. And so entire families would leave their homes and their work and would give at least one day of work to a farmer in the village. So all the farmers from all the households would give up a day of work and go plant for one farmer at a time. Empathy. Yeah, understanding that today I'm doing it for you, but tomorrow you will do it for me. And so in Dominica, we created a culture of centenarians. Centenarians. So much so that on a little island that most people are asking, where is this place? Do you mean Jamaica? No. Do you mean Dominican Republic? No. Dominica. On a little island, we were able to develop a level of centenarian living that put the island as the one with the second highest number of centenarians per capita in the Western Hemisphere. Yeah, it's empathy that did it. Empathy that did it. It's empathy that did it. So I want to thank you for joining me tonight. And I want to remind you that empathy starts with me. Empathy starts with me. Yeah, empathy starts with me. Thank you all for joining me. I missed you. Did you miss me? Karen, happy Thursday. Good evening, Jackie. Sakafet. Jackie, yes. Ask, how can I help you? What can I do to support you right now? You just lost somebody close to you, or your child just got sick, or you found out something horrible happened to you, somebody else's child. God forbid they got arrested. You sit with and you ask, what can I do to help you today? How can I support you? Yeah, because you might not be the one who's buying the attorney hours for them. Yeah, you might not be the one that's going to bail their child out, but you just sitting with, yeah, practicing empathy because, say, if it was me, I would be happy that somebody was at least sitting down with me. Yeah, that's what you do. That's what you do. So that's the spirit of Kulme and Kudme that the people of Dominica created. Yeah. Good evening, Glennis. I missed you too, Jackie. I missed you too. So I seriously want to encourage you to cultivate, cultivate empathy. I'm going to say that that empathy has to actually start for yourself, and with yourself. Yeah, because we must learn to care for ourselves and feel it in our bodies for us to really do it for other people. Hmm? So you got homework, Karen and Jackie and Glennis, and everybody who will listen to it when you come upon it. When you come upon the video, let me know if you listened all the way to the end where you're listening to me from. And I look forward to seeing you on Thursday. And I'll see you during the week on Facebook. All right? As we say in Dominican, okay, parler l'autre fois, that means we will talk another time. Peace.